Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Rebecca Keppel. In today's video, I'm sharing some tips and tricks on how to create your own masks and stencils for card making. Now, I have some products that I love and I am linking them in the YouTube description below, but feel free to use the things that you love to create these masks and stencils. The great thing about creating your own masks and own stencils is that you can create them basically with whatever dies you have on hand. Plus, you can customize them to fit the card format or size that you typically create in. I'm using A2 because that's what I make the most of. So to start off, let's first look at how you can create your own basic simple masks. To start off, I'm going to use the Gina K for Thermoweb Masking Magic. You can use any masking paper you prefer for this technique. I like this masking paper because it comes in a pack of sheets and it's easy to store and can be easily reused. The paper is perfect for fussy cutting, but we're going to be using die cutting. I cut the sheet down to 4.5 by 5 3/4 and die cut a circle out of it. I remove the backing of the rectangle and line it up on my card, then remove the backing on my circle and place it inside the die cut opening. Once that's done, I can remove the rectangle again, and I know that my circle will be lined up where it's supposed to be. For this background, I am ink blending with Distress Oxide ink using a Holtz mini round foam blender. I want an opaque coverage here, so I am holding on to the panel on the mask so I don't get fingerprints on the card and I don't have to worry about the mask sliding around. But I'm not concerned about the mask lifting up because the temporary adhesive of the mask is really phenomenal. The mask is very easy to peel away and reveals a nice clean lined circle. I remove the protective backing on the other part of the die cut and line it up on my inked background there. Now I am trying to protect the yellow and ink blend on what is now white so that we'll have two different colors on this background. This time I'm using tumbled glass and the Pink and Main ergonomic blending brush because I want a nice, soft, even coverage. I have a heavy hand with the foam blenders. The ergonomic brush is how I achieve a soft look. I put the protective pieces back in place on the sticky side of the mask, so that soft, waxy side I place on the adhesive again. This way I can store them together in an Avery Elle die pocket and keep them safe for future reuse. If you want to go beyond basic masks and shapes, you can create your own stencils using background or panel dies. To create my stencils, I'm using Studio Katia acetate sheets. You can use any acetate sheets you have or some additional packaging. I'm die cutting the acetate sheets with my Waffle Flower Hearts panel die, and I'm using my metal shim in my Gemini Junior to make sure all those little hearts get completely cut out. When I use stencils, I use Thermweb's Pixie Spray to temporarily adhere my stencil to the cardstock. It's basically a spray adhesive that you put on the back of the stencil to keep it in place. For this card, I started with tumbled glass Distress Oxide ink and applied it with the ergonomic blending brush. And then to create a gradient of blues, I'm going to use two other colors of Distress Oxide inks over the tumbled glass that I already applied. And when I do that, I'm going to use the foam blending brushes for those two additional colors. The acetate really works well and the pattern is crisp and clear because the Pixie Spray really holds it in place. Now that you've seen how I like to make masks and how I like to make stencils, let's combine them together and create a masked stenciled background. For this technique, I created a new acetate stencil with the Waffle Flower Lattice panel die. For the mask, I decided to go with the Waffle Flower Nesting Hexagon die. I peeled off the back protective layer of the hexagon and laid it on my card, sprayed the Pixie Spray on the back of the stencil, and then laid that on top of the mask and the card. For this background, I applied Distress Oxide Twisted Citron with a foam applicator. When that was done, I peeled off the stencil and then peeled off the mask to reveal a clean, uninked, unstenciled space perfect for stamping. I decided I wanted to create an inked frame on the hexagon, so I put the rectangle back down to protect the stenciled background. I then cut a hexagon slightly smaller than the hexagon opening that we already had. I then ink blended on top of that hexagon mask with tumbled glass and the Pink & Mane ergonomic blending brush. And when you peel off the rectangle and peel off the hexagon mask, you reveal that really cute framed hexagon. All of these masks can be saved and reused on future projects. And that's what I really love about this masking paper, is that it does hold up for future reuse. Now that we've created 3 fun backgrounds, I want to share how I turned them into cards. For these cards, I'm using the My Favorite Things Main Squeeze stamp set and matching dies. I stamped everything with the Gina K Obsidian Amalgam ink in my Mini Misty. I love that ink because you can use multiple mediums to color. I am going to heat set the images because I wanted to color them right away. Here are the yellow Copics I used, except I stopped using the Y11 because the nib was super trashed. Like, you can see it right here. It probably needs to be refilled as well. I start by filling in the image with the lightest color, then I add shading with the darkest color, and then I get rid of any harsh lines with the mid-tone color, and then blend it all out with that lightest again. Here are the greens that I like to use for leaves, and I used the same coloring technique with the darkest points at both ends of the leaf and blending out towards the middle. I temporarily adhere the dies to the stamped images with some Therm purple tape and then run them through my die cut machine. I use the same Obsidian black ink to stamp the sentiment. It says "To My Main Squeeze," which I think is adorable, at the top of the inked circle. I'm going to adhere the panel down to a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch piece of green cardstock. I did cut that panel down a little bit, and then I'm adding some white gel pen accents with the Signo Uniball. I'm going to use a mix of Thermoweb's Memory Runner XL, which is a tape runner, and then some Gina K Designs for Thermoweb foam tape so that some of my images are flat to the card and some are popped up. I really like the dimension and depth that gives very simply to a very simple card. I'm going to use some waffle flower, clearly enough enamel dots, just a couple to add some embellishing. For the next card, I am going to again cut it down and adhere it on some blue cardstock, and again add some white gel accents. This time I stamped the thank you at the top left of the card, and I had a little trouble trying to figure out exactly how to organize these lemons because there was no circle. You know, the mask circle really helps kind of figure out where you want to set things. With this one, they kind of were floating for a bit for me. So I played around with them a little bit, and you'll see I actually kind of pull them off, even with that foam tape, which is very sticky. I just wasn't super happy with the organization until the very end. And then it was like an aha moment, and it all just came together. And I tucked a couple of leaves behind some of those lemons, and then adhered this whole panel to a top folding 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch white note card, and then added some of those clearly enough enamel dots to embellish. For the last card, I am stamping the little hello sentiment from the stamp set at the top of the hexagon there. And I like to use the same ink that I stamped the images in to stamp the sentiment. It's a great black ink and it stamps sentiments beautifully, and then everything kind of matches and looks like it was meant to go together. Again, I'm going to use a mix of tape runner and foam tape to adhere those lemons to add that depth and dimension, and then some clearly enough enamel dots just for some embellishing. You can see all 3 cards together, the masks, the stencil, and then the masks and stencils combined. If you have other ideas about creating your own masks and stencils, I'd love to hear about them down in the comments below. If you like Stretch Your Supplies videos like this, be sure to give me a thumbs up so that I know. Don't forget, if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit that bell so you can be notified when any of my new videos are available. As always, I want to thank you so much for stopping by today. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you again soon. Gosh, I hope that's straight. Without my glasses, it's really hard for me to tell if it's straight or not. Yeah, fingers crossed.